Hello indie game fans, developers are rushing to get their game out the door before December, so here's a big week of awesome games beginning with Phantom Rose 2 Sapphire, a roguelite deck builder that is the sequel to a game from 2019, which sees returning elements like the combat but is in a new setting, in which our heroine is trying to survive in her school, which has been taken over by monsters. The art style is a highlight, as are the animations, but even more interesting is the deck building element, since this is not a Slay the Spire clone, but rather has you managing card cooldowns and is of interest because of that. Here's an interesting grimdark tactical RPG in REMORE Infested Kingdom, one that is set in medieval times that is in the middle of an apocalyptic infestation. Yes, indeed, there are zombie-like creatures that you need to battle in order to stay alive, having some stealth elements which makes it of interest. There's meta progression in camp through NPCs like the blacksmith, as well as systems like cooking food to prepare for the next battle, looking to be like Darkest Dungeon in nature. It's Halloween this week, but there are surprisingly not that many horror games, but one that looks fantastic is You Will Die Here Tonight, one that mixes and matches elements from survival horror games like the original Resident Evil in particular, as you explore this mysterious manor. Interestingly, it has top-down exploration for the survival horror part, but switches to first-person arcade shooting combat that resembles a light gun game, adding in elements of House of the Dead, and even as someone who is not usually into horror games, this is of interest to me. Hey, if you made it this far, subscribe to my weekly newsletter to keep on top of all things indie games, link in the description below. Here's something very interesting in Headbangers Rhythm Royale, a battle royale title in which 30 players take part in rhythm minigames and try to be the last one standing. This trailer gives you a taste of what to expect from the 23 minigames available, looking to be rhythm heaven-like in nature.
Your dream, this was dream. Your dream, this was dream.
There's a whole season pass and cosmetic customization aspect, looking to follow in the footsteps of games like Fall Guys, but this is a paid product at the moment, so let's see if it manages to get a decent player population. The next entry in the first-person puzzle series, the Talos Principle 2, is of note since the original was excellent, being quite the departure from Crow Team's other main franchise in the Serious Sam games. And while those were more brainless action shooters, the original Talos Principle was very much the opposite of that, which was why it surprised many when it first released. The sequel expands upon the themes and puzzles of that game, although no prior knowledge is required, but should be a great one for fans of the genre. Bigger Games begins with this interesting climbing title from developer Don't Nod, who are known for the Life is Strange series, and being French, it is a French title, so excuse my pronunciation, but Jusant looks to be isolating the Breath of the Wild climbing mechanic and somehow making it into its own game, so I'm curious to see how the game plays and what kind of mechanics are added to it.
attacks were aimed at catching the attention of a man whose identity
Oh, Detroit has a cancer, and that cancer is
A
crime.
new crime wave sweeping Detroit has already claimed the lives
The
of
malfunction
21
caught
police
on camera
officers.
provokes a question. Can we put our safety into the hands of a
An
machine?
OCP holds the scalpel.
Despite all odds, RoboCop Rogue City seems like it might be a pretty authentic RoboCop experience in that while gameplay previews have shown rather stiff-looking gunplay, it is in line with the unstoppable killing machine that RoboCop is, and seems to be self-aware as well, making it of interest.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Those trigger-happy maniacs have a ton of hostages.
Drop it, scum.
Anyone expecting a silver freak? Contact!
Lewis, you're here.
We need to get these elevators back online.
It's RoboCop!
It's that service box, isn't it?
I am detecting a short circuit.
Wakey, wakey!
I'm looking at the map of this place, and it's huge.
OCP tracking device torn out. I am going to follow the blood trail.
However, one aspect of your composition that has been severely neglected is your human side, your brain.
We must smash that thing!
I've heard people refer to you by different names.
Okay there, Murphy?
Fire at will!
I'm curious to hear which one you prefer.
My name is...
Smaller games begin with Alien Hominid HD, a HD remaster of a 10-year-old game that was originally on Flash game portals, and if the art style looks familiar, that is because it is from developer The Behemoth, who made games like Castle Crashers, where it's interesting that this is being exposed to a new generation. Delicious Dungeon is an interesting action-adventure crafting title in which you're battling monsters to get ingredients and then returning to a restaurant to cook up a storm, looking like it might have a great gameplay loop.
Let me tell you the story of Caspar Malthus. Caspar was a dear friend from my mortal youth. I hoped that he would choose to take the Malthus family in a new direction. Unfortunately, working conditions worsened. I need a mortal to help my old friend find redemption.
While just a little bit out of season, we have the Christmassy Ebenezer and the Invisible World releasing this week as well, in which you play as a reimagined Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol, having to enlist the help of ghosts to save the people of London. It's an interesting, weird reimagining of the character, which makes it a curiosity and might be a hidden gem of the week.
Caspar was also visited by 3 Christmas spirits much like Jacob Marley appeared before you. What I did not foresee, a dark spirit emerged from the shadows.
We also have the PC release of Iron Marine's Invasion, a real-time strategy game from the developers of Kingdom Rush, sporting a similar art style and character designs, but has more in common with StarCraft and should be neat.
Battle?
Unleash my wrath.
You call my attention?
Here's something a little spooky and little Goody Two Shoes, a horror narrative adventure game with an excellent narrated trailer, so I'll leave you to it.
Listen closely, for this is the tale of little Goody Two Shoes. Join Elise as she ventures into the dark and mysterious woods in search of her dreams of fortune and riches. Will you be able to uncover the woodland's darkest secrets? In Little Goody Two Shoes, you follow Elise as she embarks on a mystical yet dangerous journey. You will need to carefully balance her peculiar social life during the day with braving the dangers of the woods at night, all whilst keeping Elise healthy, sane, and away from suspicion of the witch-fearing townsfolk of Keithaburg. How she spends her limited time is up to you. All choices matter. During the day, Elise will head into town and mingle among her fellow villagers. You will have the option to work for money, strengthen Elise's relationship with the townsfolk, or maybe even strike a deeper bond with someone special. Although the options are many, Elise is not able to complete every task each day. Manage your time wisely. To earn money, Elise must complete chores for the many villagers looking for help. Some may ask you to collect eggs from their irritable chickens, whilst others might ask you to help chop up wood. The money that she has earned can be spent at either the bakery or the inn to stock up on food and other useful concoctions. Remember to keep Elise sated and healthy. But it is not all work in Keithaburg. And what's a good story without romance? During her adventures, Elise can spend her days forging meaningful relationships with up to 3 lovely bachelorettes. Rosamund Marine, a travelling witch who arrives at the village in search of her destiny. Freya, the town's sweetheart who hides a strong and determined heart. Lep Kuhan, a kind and devout nun with a keen sixth sense. Each one has their own unique story to share with you, should you let them. However, not everyone is so receptive to Elise's particular character. Her harsh demeanor strikes some of the villagers as unpleasant, and tensions begin to rise as she becomes increasingly involved with the mysterious forces of the woodlands. Be careful with what you say, for one wrong answer could seal her fate. As dusk gives way to nightfall, Elise will have the opportunity to venture into the woods. A supernatural and mystical place that hides many secrets and, potentially, the answer to her dreams. These sprawling, fantastical dungeons are filled with unforgiving puzzles and dangers that will require you to employ all your wit and make careful use of your resources in order to make it out alive. Unable to fight, Elise will need to look for clever ways to avoid danger wherever possible. Of course, when all else fails, run! The ending to Elise's story has yet to be told, and your choices will decide her fate with 10 unique endings waiting for you to unfold. Will Elise risk it all for the sake of her dream, or settle for a quiet life in Kieferberg? This is a perilous and exciting tale, the ending to which is yours to write.
Magicraft is a spellcrafting action roguelite that allows you to customize your attacks and looks pretty fun. You know it's a great week of releases when Slime 3K Rise Against Despot goes in the smaller games section, since this developer's previous work speaks for itself in Despotism 3K and Despot's game, with this retaining its signature art style and colour palette, but it's a bullet heaven title instead.
It's a good idea to go home. They all hate you, Jala. Can you blame them?
You're way too stubborn to just give up.
Dad, stop being so sensible.
I'm not quite sure where to put this, since Thirsty Suitors is a story-driven narrative game about a young South Asian woman who's trying to repair her relationship with her parents while dealing with her exes, being an atypical narrative and protagonist that we're beginning to see more of in games such as the recently released Venba, with this being published by Annapurna, who kind of specializes in this sort of game.
Are we fighting?
Why not both?
Her thighs. They're so powerful. So, I have to make up with my first love, find out what's going on with the creepy skate cult run by a bear mascot, win my mother's approval, and track down my sister who's avoiding me, all before the most dangerous battle of all.
My mother is coming to Timber Hills.
The women in your family, they're all terrifying.
I'm doomed.
My advice to you, Jala, die young.
Just a quick mention here going to Underrail Heavy Duty, a paid DLC to a CRPG from 2015, following up from the Expedition DLC in 2019, with it adding 3 new heavy weapons, new feats, and a new high-level side mission. The top 5 begins with Back to the Dawn, a self-styled prison escape RPG in which you were framed and put into prison, now having to survive and to find a way out. I'll have more on this later in the week, so look out for that, but it's certainly one worth checking out. I'm not sure if there's some sort of typo or administrative mistake, since Retopia has a very curious release date on Sunday this week of all times, which is strange, but either way, this is the follow-up to the roguelite defense city builder deck builder Retropolis, but it's now more of an oxygen not included style action simulation game. There are still enemies to defend against and even adds in a Terraria-like exploration and combat element, possibly being the next big hit in the space. If you're an indie developer and have no idea how to start with marketing your game, get on my mailing list via the link in the description below, where I'll send you some free templates and guides soon. Speaking of big hits, For the King 2 is the follow-up to a roguelite RPG in the style of a tabletop experience, which is massively popular, with the sequel looking to be a bigger and better version of that. In tabletop RPG style, this has different campaigns to go on, with the larger story and setting of a once beloved queen turning on her people, hiding a terrible secret that is causing her actions, so you and your adventurers need to figure it out. It looks similar to the earlier game visually, but nicer, and looks to be another good entry. Here's a 1.0 release that I forgot to cover since the date changed a number of times, but My Time at Sandrock has the potential to really explode out of the gate with the full release, since its early access version is at 12,000 Steam reviews as of recording, being the follow-up to My Time at Portia, and appears to be similar but better. In both games, you are a builder, having your own workshop to create objects, vehicles, and even farming, with villagers to get to know and romance, but it's different enough from the standard farming sim. The third-person action and combat is neat as well, so it's another massive simulation experience to dig into, which looks great. Of course, going back to the start of the smaller games section, the reason why the original Alien Hominid got a HD remaster is that its sequel, Alien Hominid Invasion, is releasing this week as well, being an expanded version of the original, but created with multiplayer in mind, in which you play as aliens invading Earth and fighting away to the human HQ. It looks wacky and zany and is simple mayhem, with roguelike-ish elements to keep gameplay fresh, and hey, the behemoth is one of the most notable developers in the space, with more awesome co-op games in this video.